The Stars and Stripes show is brought to you by the U.S. Embassy.
It's Gabs FM, power to engage your world. Now, welcome to the Stars and Stripes radio show, proudly brought to you by the U.S. Embassy, # America in Botswana. And today we're diving into an important conversation about the role of African youth in shaping the continent's development agenda. Just last week, we commemorated the Day of the African Child. And as we look forward to the U.S. Africa Business Summit taking place in Gaborone in Botswana from the, if I'm not mistaken, it's the 11th till the 14th of July 2023. It's a crucial, absolutely important to reflect on the experiences and the future of African children in the 21st century. Of course, by the year 2030, young Africans are projected to comprise a staggering 42% of the world's youth population and an overwhelming 75% of those under the age of 35 in Africa. Can you imagine? With such an immense demographic, it's essential to implement supportive policies and programs that promote inclusive youth development. And that is how important young people are. But we're going to move along swiftly, Sam. We're going to go straight into the Meet America policy discussion. And of course, we're speaking to U.S. Embassy Nonhlanhla Ledimu. How are you, my friend? And welcome to the show. It's not your first. It's
welcome
not your
back.
Last. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm super. Thank you, Samantha. Thank you, Swift. And good afternoon to the listener.
Fantastic. How was your week?
My week was very tight, but interesting.
That's always good. Look, let's get straight into it. I'm going to say this. Kindly introduce yourself and, of course, your portfolio at the U.S. Embassy and your everyday role at the U.S. Embassy.
Okay, I'm the Emerging Voices Specialist at the U.S. Embassy to Botswana under the Public Diplomacy Department.
Okay.
The Emerging Voices audience is the youth, the minority groups, and women.
Okay.
And our primary role for the portfolio is to help our audience to realize and understand the ability to influence a positive change in their communities, the nation, and the world.
Wow. Powerful. And to add on to that, young people, and I know I'm digressing slightly, but your view of the young person in Botswana, I mean, from your vantage point, you're dealing from policy, you're dealing from a macro vantage point, as well as understanding the cry of the young person in Botswana. Just walk us through that point of view.
Okay. I believe that the young people in Botswana are talented, they're gifted, and we need to understand them. We need to be patient with them, and we need to give them platforms to express themselves.
I like that.
And we also need to lead them because we as elders and as policy makers and influencers, we have experience of the world, and being with them, holding their hand, guiding them, it will be successful. They will give the world different perspectives on how to do things, on how to be innovative and be creative. It's I would say that they need our guidance.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Nonhlanhla, today we're looking at, the role of African youth on the continent. And we'd just like to know what the U.S. government strategy is when looking at Africa and what it says about the African youth.
Okay. Before going into the strategy, let me share a bit of a reference of what the Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said in November 2021.
Okay.
He said that Africa will shape the future. Underline that Africa will shape the future, and not just the future of African people, but of the world.
Wow.
Remember when I introduced our audience, I said that we want them to realize and understand that they have the ability to make a positive change into the world, our communities, and the nation. So here is the secretary also reinstating that.
Yeah, amplifying
that. Going into the strategy, the U.S. government strategy articulates a new vision for how and with whom we engage, while identifying additional areas of focus. The world keeps on changing, so our strategy also looks at that. The strategy welcomes and affirms African agency and seeks to include and elevate African voices in the most significant global conversations. So this is where we look at young people and we say young people do have a sit in significant global conversations out there in the international market. The strategy also calls for developing a vast contact of partners and more flexible regional architecture which responds to urgent challenges and catalyze economic growth and opportunities. As you look at it right now, we are experiencing the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. So this is where the strategy comes in as well. The strategy also recognizes the Africa's youth as an engine of entrepreneurship. The youth in Africa batungi engine.
I like that.
Entrepreneurship and innovation. And it emphasizes the enduring and historical ties between the American and African people. This is where we also bring in our exchange programs as the American embassy.
Absolutely.
The U.S. government strategy recast traditional U.S. policy priorities, which focus on democracy and governance, peace and security, trade and investment, and development. These are pathways to support the region's ability, that is the African region's ability to solve global problems alongside the United States. Yes, basically that is a brief from our strategy for Africa.
Well, it's Gabs FM, powered to engage your world. If you've just joined us, welcome to the Stars and Stripes radio show, proudly brought to you by the U.S. Embassy. And of course, today we're talking the role of African youth in the continent's development agenda. And of course, I am speaking to none other than Nonhlanhla Ledimu, who is the U.S. Embassy Emerging Voices, and she sits at the Public Diplomacy Office. And of course, young people also represent the next generation of decision makers and have the potential to shape the future in a positive way. Let's touch on programming. We know the U.S. Embassy Gaborone facilitates a number of programs that are geared towards young people. Let's just highlight some of those programs, and of course, how can young leaders and young people engage the U.S. Embassy in line with, number one, getting information about this. A lot of young Botswana saying, sometimes we miss it. Should they go on to social media, follow you on social media? What should they do?
Okay. Like you mentioned, Swift, we have a number of programs, exchange programs, which some of them are here in Botswana. We bring our American experts into Botswana.
Nice.
Some we send our Botswana youth to the United States to experience such programs. One of the programs that we have is the Mandela Washington Fellowship for Youth, for Young African Leaders, which is the funding flagship program of the Young African Leaders Initiative.
Wow.
It targets young people between the ages of 25 and 35 who are accomplished leaders and have established records of promoting innovation and positive impact in their communities.
Which we'll be speaking to some Yali fellows today.
Later on, yes.
Absolutely.
So this is an annual program. So every year we send fellows to participate in a 6-week leadership institutes, and they focus on business, civic engagement, and public management.
Nice.
This past Tuesday we sent a cohort of 19 to the US.
19 Botswana?
19 Botswana.
Okay.
Yes. So if the youth follow our Facebook page, every week we have a profile of individuals from the cohort. So that can be a guidance on how to maybe next year express their interest in the program.
So in line with Yali, these are young Botswana who are showing signs and have some form of proven record in terms of their impact, whether it's a social impact, whether it's public diplomacy, whether it is civic engagement. And then this is what you need to do as a Botswana. If you're listening, if you're a parent, ask your children to follow the U.S. Embassy social media platforms in order to engage. You know, one thing, Samantha, I've realized, especially in this digital world, it's better to put your phone on notifications of the U.S. Embassy if you're interested in engaging and not missing any information in line with some of these programming, because you've been on a program, I've been on a program, and it is second to none. The amount of not only I believe in human capital. You know that, right?
Yes.
So I'm connected from the street to the office of the president right up to the White House. You do know that, right? Yeah, I've got people from all over the world. No, moving swiftly along, pun intended. But just to encourage Botswana, or look, this is how. And you know, one thing that you've got to appreciate is that an investment in human capital is an investment of the destiny of the nation. So these programs is very, very important that you're part and parcel.
Yes, it's very important. We also have the Fulbright Foreign Student Program, which we send every year. We send 3 students, and the age is it's between 18 and 35. And we all, with this one, the interesting thing is we also go beyond 35. So most of the time our applicants are within the age 18 to 35, but we also encourage those who are over 35 to apply. With this one, they do their master's degree or PhD. So in July, we'll be sending 3 again. 3 grantees to the US to study their graduate degrees. And this one, like I said, they can follow our Facebook page to see applications as they applications as they announcement as they come through. And then we have the Fulbright Distinguished Awards in Teaching. This one focuses mainly on teachers, the teaching profession. And you know that we also have the youth within the teaching profession. So we encourage them also to apply for this program. This one is 6 months program, and they go to the US and interact with other fellows from the teaching profession in the US and African countries. And then we have the study in the US leaders. This one is for undergraduates between 18 and 25. We send them to do, it's for 5 to 6 weeks. We send them to do civic engagement, entrepreneurship, climate change, economic empowerment, development, journalism and media, rule of law and public service. If you observe very well, these programs have different ages and they have they have integrated fields. So we are not focusing only on one field. And then there's also Pan-Africa Youth Leadership Program, which focuses on learners who are at junior secondary school. So we are also going down the age. We even encourage the younger ones to participate in these programs.
Nonhlanhla, I'm interested to find out, maybe there's a parent who's listening whose child is into community work, maybe something that's related to leadership. What is it that you guys are looking for? What can we start doing, as young people in order to make sure that apply in 2 years' time? What would the American Embassy be looking at when you guys are selecting? What's the criteria?
Our programs are competitive because you are also the children, the applicants are also competing with applicants from other countries. Yes, so it is important that when the young people apply, they look for what is our priority areas in that specific year. most of the time when we roll out the application announcement, we state what we are looking for that particular year.
Yeah.
You may have a good project, but not a priority area for that year. So make sure that when the applicants apply, when they express the interest, they specify the project and they align the project in relation to what has been stipulated as the priority for that particular year.
Okay.
Well, it's Gabs FM Power to Engage Your World. We're fast running out of time, but let me afford you this opportunity to share your parting statement. And of course, as we celebrate the role of African youth in the continent's development agenda in line with the US Embassy and of course, hashtag America in Botswana.
Yes, I can confidently say our programs are really making a positive impact.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Just yesterday, we witnessed a launch of an entrepreneurship hub by one of our alumni, Mandela Washington.
Wow.
Yes, Mandela Washington fellow Katlego Mokgethi. The hub was launched at the University of Botswana, so it's housed at the University of Botswana.
Fantastic.
And the entrepreneurs participate, or they can be part of this hub free of charge. They don't need to pay anything. The catch is that after that, you need to also impact the skills that you have acquired from this hub to your community.
Wow. So
pay
there's pay it forward, and there's a ripple effect.
There's a ripple effect of what you have acquired. And then we have also witnessed one of our Susi students from Palape who is doing a waste management project. She's working with students from Bused. She's working with her community, and Dukosi are really interested in this project and are really supporting her. Her name is Matronolo Maramba. And then also recently we witnessed one of their on-demand youth leadership program alumni, Kevin Tefo Nzala, who is a student at Naledi Senior Secondary School. And the interesting thing is when they come from these projects, they partner. So Kevin partnered with some of the alumni from the same cohort that he was in, Lara and Rorisang. So they were conducting a session on energy information. So it's a variety of projects. There's many more, and even you, Samantha and Swift, can share your experience of what you have experienced with our exchange programs.
Absolutely.
And later on, I believe that our alumni will also share their experience.
Well, it's Gabs FM Power to Engage Your World. On the other side of this, we're going to continue conversation, and we're rolling into our next segment titled The Partner Spotlight. We would like to hear from beneficiaries of some of this U.S. programming within the Republic of Botswana. Let's understand what our own young leaders are doing for the nation. Gabs FM Power to Engage Your World. It's Gabs FM Power to Engage Your World. Did you know that Zeus is also a Yali fellow? He is part and parcel of this great community, and this song is actually an anthem of change. It says, Ara Ching. Let us go into it. And it reminds me of the quote, be the change you'd like to see.
Definitely. Today we are talking about the role of African youth in the continent's development agenda, and quite excited because in studio this afternoon we're sitting with two amazing people who are beneficiaries of Yali, as well as people by Longkore have come into their community to continue what it is a few years back. In studio this afternoon on Partner Spotlight, we have the opportunity to talk to somebody who's no stranger in the Purple Studio, someone who I know as well. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And then also we've got Remo Fat Lewis. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Samantha. anthem.
He's also no stranger to the microphone or Gabs FM.
Right?
Yeah.
Because
Sorry. Hey, I got your back. Yeah, no problem. I got your back, brother.
Definitely. Let's get into it. I think let's start with you, Masego. What is it that you do for people who don't know, and as a beneficiary of Yali?
All right, I went under the Mandela Fellowship, Mandela Washington Fellowship Program, which is under Yali, like Nontlantla said. And I went under the business track because I'm an entrepreneur. And I think also because I had been doing charity stuff for a while, that contributed. I think that added to my CV in them picking, because what they usually look for is somebody who's already doing something in the community. They don't want somebody who's saying, I'm aspiring to be a leader in my community.
Absolutely.
They want to see the fruits first. So I went under the business track, and I went to Lehigh University in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay, that's exciting. Mr. Moffat, Nelile Huirang, when you went.
I am actually in the very first cohort.
Wow.
The 2014 cohort, yes. Sure. Yeah, that is the main.
Yes.
I went under the civic leadership track. I was in New York City. I was at Wagner College in Staten Island. I've been doing social justice. I've been chasing social justice. I've been talking equality and equity in our communities. And, I've been pushing the agenda for people with disabilities and gone there to learn more and see how they're doing it in the US.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Well, it's Gabs FM Power to Engage Your World. Let me ask you both a question, and let me ask Moffat first. The role of African youth in achieving the continent's development agendas, especially in lines with persons with disabilities. That is an important conversation. We interviewed Mr. Lewis around Ibile di Khanza go palama bus, and you're living with this challenge, and the fact that the transportation sector of our everyday society does not accommodate for an important demographic within our population. How important is the conversation that we're having today, and what would you like to inform the public why we're having this conversation?
Thanks, Swift. As young people, maybe no longer as young as I was when I started activism. I started my activism in my early 20s, exactly when I was 19 jumping into 20. Yes, I started with HIV and AIDS, and then I moved into disabilities. As I said, I'm chasing social justice. For persons with disabilities and the conversations that we should be having as young people and those in the sector, wherever I go, I tell people that we need, and as Botswana, we need to acknowledge the social injustices that we did over time, or historic injustices. We deliberately left people with disabilities behind. Yeah. And partly because maybe we didn't have enough resources at that time. It was understandable for the Botswana of 1966, for the Botswana of 1970 to, focus on other development areas and maybe not, invest as much in the disability sector. But today, where we are, and the youth of today really need to be the voice to say, time is here. Botswana, in terms of development, we've moved from one of the least, the poorest countries in the continent. We are now a middle income country. So those that we left behind in the process of development, is now time, to drag them through, to bring them on board. And this is the conversation that could be led by young people. They have the energy, they have, in terms of education. Even among persons with disabilities, they started getting structured education after 1994, after the revised education policy. So those are now coming up as young leaders with disabilities, with, education, who have managed to get education. So they now need to start talking and saying, where Botswana is today, we now need to focus into bringing on people with disabilities.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, Masego, you work with young people. You're a young woman. You're an entrepreneur. I want to ask you this in line with speaking to power. The young people, if you are too loud, if you are too assertive, even Samantha, is it fair to say, even as a woman, if you're too assertive and you're going to go get yours, there are funny connotations associated to you. I want to go and build 1, 2, 3. What would you say as a young person over your journey trying to beat these or break down these stereotypes, especially in terms of speaking to power?
Yeah. All right. I think for me, what I realized is that being a woman and being young as an entrepreneur is very difficult because, first of all, people don't take you seriously. On top of that, you know, so it's very difficult to push your way through. And I think how I've done it is just to be continuously persistent in what you want, in wanting to achieve your goals, because you're going to get a lot of people, especially adults, who are going to look down on you because you're young, first of all, and also look down on you because you're a woman. You know, you are in meetings, you're trying to sell your services or your product, you know. I think it even works even in the workplace. You'll get that women that are younger, you know, are treated like nana go get me some tea or go buy me magwinya, you know. So it's a challenge being a woman and being young, trying to push your way in either the workplace or being an entrepreneur. So you just have to be determined and know what you want and just push until you reach your goals.
Come on now. We have daughters. I hope they're listening. And you know, I like what you say, and I'm learning as well as from my position of privilege in my gender position. A young girl and call her. You're right. I mean, I'm the big brother of a lot of these young ladies at Gabs FM, and I do the same. I'm guilty of the same. And you know, that's why you've got to have and engage with different facets of our society to say, no, look, at the end of the day, I am capable, whether I am young, whether I'm a woman, whether I'm a man, whether I'm a person with disabilities. It does not sort of disadvantage me in terms of my ability to contribute to society.
Let's continue with the conversation. Remofat, you speak to social justice, you speak to equality, especially looking at persons with disabilities. A little bit earlier on in introducing yourself and, you know, what you focus on, you spoke about the time when you went to New York under Yali. I'm interested to find out how the Yali program has helped you as a young African leader who seeks to provide solutions to, you know, Africa's challenges. What are some of the things that you got from there when you got back home? You know, you were empowered, you were excited to, you know, get onto the ground running.
Oh, thanks a lot, Samantha, for those. I think two major things happened. One thing is networking, you know, just the cohort. I mean, the BW Yali, you know, 2014 cohort, we are still together, we still meet, we still work together. And we still help each other, actually.
To this day?
To this day.
Wow.
Yeah, we do. We did catch up for, you know, dinner, you know, like 3 weeks back or so. So we still do stuff together. And when we are there, we still look into what others are doing and we share notes. And if somebody's doing something of interest or that they think they can hook you up, you know, we do that. Collaborate and do stuff together. So it is in terms of enrichment, just locally, you know, just how we came to know each other and how we built that relationship. That's one. And secondly, the bigger network. I mean, being in the US and having met all the experts, the university lecturers that we're with, you know, the institutions that we visited, you know, just to go and learn. I maintained quite a number of those and those friendships and the Yali network just broadly in the region. As you know, I think I'm one of the Yali fellows who have really benefited in terms of American funding.
Okay.
You know, I've done a project in Mozambique paid by the US Embassy in Mozambique. I've done quite a number, about 4 or 5 projects in Botswana funded by the US Embassy. So I'm one.
So in line with that, it's not only about the money. What kind of impact does that opportunity give to Botswana?
Because like I said, I'm really chasing social justice. And I think all this funding, for example, when I went to Mozambique, we're going to assess institutions, schools to see how accessible they are for students with disabilities. So we had to work with organizations in Mozambique to really try to shape the education system in Mozambique. And the same thing that I'm doing here, whether it's sports, whether it's education, whatever funding that I get is actually getting out to the communities and working with the communities to try and shape, how we are doing things and advocate for better ways of doing things.
Wow.
So it's purely about community impact. It's about taking services to the people. It's about people appreciating the challenges that individuals with disabilities actually go through on a day-to-day basis.
Well, it's Gabs FM Power to Engage your world. Both of you will be in my cabinet. I know one day I'm going to consider running for president, and I think definitely your interview is going very, very well in terms of your ability to deliver. We need to celebrate unsung heroes.
Yeah.
We need to create a culture of volunteer, a culture of loving thy nation and putting thy nation, and not only serving thy nation, because without the two of you and the impact that you do, Masego, let me bring you back into the conversation. Entrepreneurship is no easy ball game. Young people are crying. Young people are saying, we are not necessarily heard. Or rather, let me say there's a disjoint between, some of the programming from the public sector and the young person. What are some of your solutions from your vantage point, from your experience? And as well, let me give you a double-barreled question. Your hardships. Entrepreneurship, you got to bounce back from failure. You got to fail, and then win. Walk us through that journey as well.
All right. I actually just wanted to touch on what he was saying about the funding, because after the fellowship, the U.S. Embassy also sponsored a program.
Okay.
That we did with Naledi Senior School.
Okay.
And it was to train the Form 5 students, because we realized that a lot of my Form 5, when they finish school, a lot of them don't get into university, and then they have no idea what to do. They are stuck. So we train them on soft skills, how to look for work. We train them on health issues, because the cohort consists of different people in different sectors.
Yes.
And then we train them on entrepreneurship as well. So what we did is we were teaching them how to come up with business ideas and how to make those ideas now into something that they can sell. And then we had pitch contests after that.
Wow.
So I realized that after the program, I met a few of them outside, and I was really impressed, because it seemed like the work that we had done was really impactful.
Powerful.
And unfortunately, after the program, I didn't continue with YAB. It's called Youth Achievement Botswana.
Yes.
I'm not sure if it's still running.
Yes.
But then it gave me an idea. I just recently registered a trust.
Oh,
it's called
wow.
the Lixon Project Trust.
Okay.
And I want to continue that work, right? I want to get the young people that are out of school and train them in workshops on coming up with business ideas. How do I make my business idea marketable, right? And also partner with people that are doing markets in order to be able to help them to sell those products. And, teach them how to do pitches, how to sell the ideas.
The elevator pitch,
yes, how to sell the products, because I think it's very important. So I think it's something that's really lacking. I was very excited to hear about the hub at the university, because it's something that we're going to be doing as Lixon Project.
Wow.
And I think that's always been the challenge with our youth, that they don't know where to start. You've got this idea. You don't know if you are able to sell that idea. You don't even know if there's a market for that idea. And then you don't even know who's going to fund you for that idea. I'm sure the Department of Youth, they give out a lot of money for projects, and they fail. And the reason what they fail is because you can't pump money into people who have no idea how to use that money. You first have to teach them,
Absolutely.
right? How to come up with ideas that bring solutions. Because when you're selling a product, you're solving a problem.
Yes.
So everybody wants to do the same thing, but we have so many problems that could be solved, right? And I really love youth that are innovative, right? Through the U.S. Embassy, the Mandela Washington Fellowship Program, again, I was part of the Forbes summit that went on. And it was really amazing to see what young people are doing, what innovations they have come up with. And I wish a lot of more young Botswana could do that, because they tend to think you need money. You need money to do 1, 2, 3. But the things that you can do, like Nonhlanhla was saying, they've got a lot of programs that youth can take advantage of. If you're not working, don't just sit at home. Look for scholarships. look for exchange programs. The U.S. Embassy has plenty of those. Don't just sit at home, learn a skill, right? Don't just sit and don't just wait for work. And this is the problem with our youth. They're always looking for somebody to employ them. And this is the problem. I don't want to be controversial, but this is the problem I have with education in our country.
Yes.
We're teaching people how to be employees.
Economic slaves.
Yeah, we're teaching our children how to be employees instead of employers. And this is what bothers me. I've always said our education needs a complete overhaul because you can't be pumping theory into children and not teaching them life skills and not teaching them how to earn and not teaching them about finances.
Yeah.
Even my children, I just recently moved them from the school because they were just drumming a lot of theory into them. And I hate that. I want them to be able to be creative. I want them to be able to learn skills, whether it's sports, whether it's art, whether it's ballet, whether it's, I want my children to be versatile. I want them to be able to leave this country at some point, and be able to play in the global economy, So I think our youth need to stop waiting for things to happen, stop waiting for the government to help them, and start doing things for themselves.
Absolutely. It's Gabs FM, power to engage your world. Me and you are good friends, okay? Me and you, Ridisala. And that is, I think you really captured the theme of the role of African youth in the continent's development agenda. I am a firm believer the hierarchy of subjects no longer applies. Math, English, science. Today there's TikTok, there's dancing, there's so many different facets of society that can be taken advantage of. And at the end of the day, we want to become a knowledge-based economy. On the other side of this, I'm going to ask you both of you a question. What kind of policy would you introduce and why?
The Stars and Stripes show is brought to you by the U.S. Embassy.
Pages.
Moffat Louis.
That's all we got.
The Stars and Stripes show was brought to you by the U.S. Embassy.
Dumela Botswana, hola bafetu, kivima mpizi. You are listening to Gabs FM, power to engage your world.
Bringing the world closer to you. On air, online, on your mobile. This is Gabs FM News.
Stories making headlines this hour. Road fatality rates reach alarming levels, and Ghanaians disrupt parliament over sanitary pad taxes. A very good afternoon to you with Gabs FM News at 1. I am Diana Mutsu. At least 175 people have died in road accidents since the beginning of this year. This was revealed by the Motor Vehicle Accident Fund NVA Case Management Supervisor, Ikageng Busang, during a caretaker training in Maung yesterday.
Dipalo tsa go ema ka 18 tsa ga June 2023 mme mo bekeng ya teng hala e le nosi ne go supa gore Flathouse ke batho ba le 6 re tshwantsha le bekeng e heta ne re Flathouse ke motho a le 1 banna ba bone dikotsi tse di serious ne ba le 21 mo bekeng e hitile ne ba le 8 then banna ba bone mo reng di khobalo tse di potana ne ba le 30 mo bekeng e hitileng ne ba le 25 re tale mo ga gore mo bekeng e ne ne ma ka di 18 go supa gore dipalo tsotlhe tsa rona di oketsegile a kere re bona ba ba thokagetse ba oketsegile ka 5 e le palo e tshwenyang ya thata ya ba re lebella dipalo hela tsotlhe yang ka kakaretso mo ngwagong mo hela go simolla ka January o ithala ka di 8 la tlhaso ke matshelo a le 175.
Busang further said carelessness by drivers on the roads continues to be a leading cause of road mishaps.